Oceanside TV, I have another great guest, and I am welcoming Carli Genet, and she is a psychotherapist in Newington, New Hampshire. She works out of whole life healthcare, which is another great practice of kind of holistic practitioners. And I'm always getting questions like which therapist, and to be honest, I really think that just like anything, finding the right practitioner is a little bit like dating. It's like you have to find you have to find the right match. And what I want to do is just highlight different practitioners so that you can see, is this somebody that you think you would connect with and could help you and be part of your team. So I'm going to have Carli talk a little bit about her practice, and then we're going to just sort of say like who is the best match for Carli and her practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it really does go both ways. So I really respect and love, Cristin, that you highlight that and are offering that to the people that are connected to you through Oceanside.
Yeah, we have to find a team, and everybody's team is a little bit different based on what they're going through and who they connect with.
Yes, absolutely. So let me see where to start. I was telling Cristin when she first came into my office, this is my video debut, so it's a little nerve-wracking, but I'll do my best. So I started my work as a therapist working with individuals on the spectrum and with developmental disabilities. And that was, 6-7 years ago. And I loved the work, and the pieces that I really liked about it were that it could be really creative, but I felt like there was this piece that wasn't happening. And the piece that wasn't happening at the time, it felt to me, was that I couldn't, it was hard for me to ask the questions that I wanted to ask and get the answers that I really felt like I needed in order to understand what was really going on for my clients. So I transitioned out of developmental services and entered into community mental health, which was an amazing experience, and I learned so much and worked with a whole bunch of different types of clients. And there I was a little bit more able to sort of hone in the pieces of being a therapist that I've learned are really important to me and kind of come naturally. And those pieces really are about kind of helping a person to understand who they are at their core, why they are who they are at their core, and what the difference is between them at their core and all of the other pieces that they think they need to be or should be. And then about a year ago, I transitioned into my own private practice, which is where we're sitting now. And actually what was kind of amazing about that process was that this space came to me because I had set the intention for that year, for 2018, to develop a team for myself and my own health.
See, we're all kind of thinking, none of us can do it alone, and so many people need so many team members. Yes. So we're all trying to figure this out and how to connect, which I think going forward, this is hopefully healthcare will start to collaborate. I'm trying to start all that, but I think it's a collaboration revolution that's about to happen.
I think so too. I hope so. And I like sharing this story because it shows that it can happen and it can do really amazing things.
Yeah.
So I developed this really awesome team, and I was working with a nutritionist through whole life healthcare, and he said, gosh, we're looking for another therapist, and I think you'd be a really good fit. And lo and behold, 2 months later, I entered into where I am now. And so being in this space with the integrative providers has really allowed me to more deeply just sort of follow this path of helping people find that authentic place. And what I'm learning more and more is that the narrative that people have learned about themselves, whether it's about, their personality, their relationships, their pain, physical or emotional, their job, all of these pieces of their life, those stories start so young, and actually they start before they're even born. And so my practice and my style of working with people really integrates sort of an attachment-based perspective, so the stuff that happens really, really early on.
It all goes back.
It all goes back. It all does.
Really quickly.
Yeah, and then sort of integrating in with that, and I think we'll probably talk about this a little bit more, but how does that affect our brain? And how does that affect who we are and how we live our lives presently.
And I think that's where we really connected too, is because if you've ever seen me or part of our practice, we're kind of brain nerds. And the neuroscience that has really evolved in the last 5 or 10 years has really fundamentally changed a lot of our practices. And it's all about the brain. And the brain is so complicated. And I always say it's beautifully complicated because that means it's really resilient as well. So however you are right now, we can change it. And so, but not that it's that easy at all. But
I'd be out of a job.
But there's plasticity. There's neuroplasticity. So the brain is changing, second by second. So we can use that to our advantage. And when we connected, I really wanted patients to have somebody to go to that really was part of this, kind of neuroscience, brain concept and really promoted resiliency, because I don't want you to go to somebody and not have tools. And Carli really uses a lot of different tools in her practice that really highlight the resiliency of the brain. And so that's what drew kind of us together and have us starting to have that conversation. So can you highlight kind of some of the tools that you use? I mean, no one tool, just like physical therapy, is it for everybody. But the fact that somebody has a lot of tools other than, just talking, just like physical therapy would be like, if you just went somewhere and just did exercise, find someone else.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're learning about trauma, and trauma doesn't need to mean like an intense car accident or
having babies is traumatic.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Going to school can be traumatic.
Being bullied can be traumatic. Having, it can be anything.
Yeah.
Tripping over a sidewalk and having somebody laugh at you can be traumatic. So, but what we're learning now is that in order to really heal, where the memory is stored in the brain, we really need to work with it on lots of different levels. So we need to work with the cognition that's around it. We need to work with the emotion that's around it, the image, the way that it feels in our body, right?
Yeah,
so like
all the sensations.
Experience.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And so in a couple different modalities, I do my best to tap into all of those different layers. So like my clients will often hear me say, if they're talking about an emotion or experience, okay, where do you feel that in your body? And if we breathe into that part in your body, what happens? Like, what does it have to tell you? So that's sort of like can be an internal family systems kind of model. But the really cool piece that I'm just starting to do a little bit more of now is EMDR, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing Therapy, which is a really long way of saying we use both sides of the brain to reprocess a memory that has not been able to be filed away in the way that it needs to be filed away, which means that any time that something triggers you, and again, like to go back to all of those different experiences, it can be we talk about it like the trunk of a tree, right? So it can be a smell, it can be a thought, it can be an image, it can be a noise, it can be that pit feeling in your stomach, right? So anytime you feel one of those, the memory that's further up the line.
Or I'll say neural networks, or the whole network that's in your brain. Yep. It's an experience of all those sensations together.
Gets triggered. Right?
Yeah, so it's like the light switch goes on.
Right, you're flooded and you're feeling all of it. And in terms of like physical therapy, right, that might be when your muscles really tense up. And so anyways, what EMDR does is it allows the person and the person's brain and emotional system to reprocess it so that all of those things aren't tied together anymore. It doesn't mean that it erases it from your memory, but it allows it to be part of your story instead of all of your story.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll say we're sort of defragging. It's like, like behind the TV when like all the wires are together and it's like a mess. Well, we have to like detangle.
Yes. And I also had somebody describe it to me recently, okay, everybody kind of knows how iPhones work nowadays, right? So when you can double click on the home screen, I have an old phone, so mine still has an actual home button, and all of the apps that are in the background pop up. That's kind of what it's like to have any type of trauma. You have all of these apps running in the background. And so
all those tabs up. That stresses me out.
I know, right? Yeah. And so EMDR allows us to just close those tabs. And it's, Can't even say how amazing.
And there's so many different techniques, but what I would say is there's so many people doing modalities, aspects that don't just say, like, talk about it and change. You can't just say willpower is everything. Like, it's just not the way it works. It's not the way the brain works. So you have to respect that, which I think can be very validating for people. It's like, there's a reason you keep doing things the same way, whether it's habits or thought processes or...
Well, I love to let people know that everything that we do, every behavior that we have, every action that we take, when we initially learned it, it came from a good place, right? Like, so somebody who continues to engage in gosh, I don't know, I'll use a pretty benign example, like running, right? Like, they continue to run even though their ankle really hurts. Okay, well, when they first decided to start doing that, they were doing it because they wanted to achieve something, or they were doing it because mom or dad had taught them that they were supposed to run through everything. On a more emotional level, it might be something like entering into unhealthy relationships, right? Like, somewhere along the way, that person learned that the only way to get what they needed was to enter into relationships, no matter what the context was or how unhealthy it was. So sometimes I'll describe it as like, turn over the stone, right? Like, I know this stone looks like something really bad that you want to change in the present moment, but if we turn it over, where did that come from?
That's a great example, because we're sort of using hypotheticals, but the context matters, which is why it's so unique. It's everybody's story and experience, whether their symptoms are the same, is completely unique, and so it has to be treated that way.
Yes.
So, Carli, who's somebody who you do really well with, who they do really well with you?
Yeah, great question. So I love working with people who are interested in figuring it out because if somebody comes in and they say to me, I just want my anxiety to go away, or I just want to quit smoking, or I just want to, I want this thing to stop, I'll be pretty quick to say, I might not be your girl if you're looking just for skills, just for us to fix this, right? Like, I know the skills and they can be part of what we do together, but I gotta be honest in saying a lot of what we do is going to be sort of unraveling, understanding which apps are open and then closing them if we need
the deep end of the pool.
The deep end of the pool. So I work really well with people who are interested in doing that, and because some of my stuff is a little bit like, it can feel a little awkward to try to figure out where in your body an emotion is, or to breathe with your body. Not everybody is capable of that, right? But you probably would feel more comfortable working with me if kind of being in your body and being open to a more sort of fluid, flowing approach to therapy and not so much rigidity is something that you're okay with.
I think that's great. And, whatever feels intuitively great for you is really what you should pursue. And so if what we're talking about strikes a chord with you, and you think, hey, that sounds a little bit different, that sounds like maybe something I want to pursue, that's great. That's what this video is for, for you to connect. So thank you so much for having me in your office. And where can people find you?
So people can find me a couple different ways. If you're familiar with Whole Life Healthcare in Newington, you can find my page through their website, mywholelifehealthcare.com. You can also go to my individual website, which is www.soulsnestcounseling.com. That's SOULS. Carli
or
Genet
just Google Carli Genet.
Yeah, which is honestly sometimes the easiest approach.
All right, well, thank you so much, and thanks so much for watching that video. Please hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more of those videos and keep learning on how to read your body.